Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Sculptures Morning Coffee or Tea with American Sculpture on a Tuesday morning. And that's right, Kermit is in the house. He's green and loving it. So the coffee is here, and it is match day as well. Of course, I should probably bring the microphone over here. You guys might not have heard any of that, is what I'm assuming. But good morning to everyone. Welcome to the morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. And yes, Tony in the house, Tiger already in the house. Good morning to all. Yes, match day. I'm pretty. It's funny. It is almost feels like a Derby belly thing going on because it is Galatasaray. Man, I could not probably care less about this game normally. I would probably just worry more about the Chelsea game on the weekend. I'll be honest. I would be like, you know what? Let's get the draw away, Champions League, being number one and stuff. We know how that panned out. So I would be more about that, but it's a totally different vibe to me because it is freaking Galatasaray. Master United is the best. Who's Master United's? I hope to God you're not saying Manchester United, Tiger. But that should be. You should tune in tomorrow. By the way, after the morning show. Speaking of Manchester United, right after the morning show tomorrow, we'll be live with Edip for Rival Bros, where now we're both in the bad situation over here. Carrick is in the house. What is going on, man? It's been a long time, buddy. How have you been? Need to bounce back to winning the ways today ahead of Chelsea this weekend. Yes, I agree. But I don't think, like if we went to like a weird place and, like got a draw, I don't know, like a freaking like a Belgium or something like that, because it's Galatasaray, I'm more, we got to freaking win this. Now we got to win this. We got to freaking smash them, is what I'm hoping for. But it will be a tough game. Manchester United has been banned from US since 1864. Okay, now you guys are making me Google things over here. I don't know who Master United is. I really don't, but I'm all for it. Bring Master United's tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, right after the morning show. We'll talk a little bit about them. We'll talk a little bit about us, I'm sure, and we'll look ahead to the weekend for the Chelsea game, who Manchester United is playing and stuff like that, and Rival Bros, where my brother will be on, who's a United fan. So, but going back to what Kenrick is saying, I do agree. This is kind of like a good bounce back game, and you probably do not want to go into the Chelsea game with a poor result from this, right? In terms of like vibes and stuff like that. So I am hoping for a good outing, good results, and no injuries, obviously. So a couple of things to talk about. I talked about it a little bit last night on the podcast. I was coming from like the refereeing, so it was I was on there for like last 20-30 minutes with actually Matush and Gally, because Bickler is out there like traveling and stuff. Good morning, Dara. So the Chiesa thing, let's talk about that a little bit, because it really, really annoyed the hell out of me. If you watched the podcast last night, you know how it got it. How annoyed I got over it. I don't know why, but some things kind of like get on my nerves more than others. And when I watched the press conference for Ekitike and Slots, and we'll talk about the Ekitike one too. I think it's kind of like a telling of the kid that he is. But for the Slot press conference, like the entire chat over there was nothing but just freaking stupidity. And I'm not talking about like some, no offense, but some United's fans like hopping on and like talking, saying stupid stuff, but more about like free Chiesa and Slot out because Slot is not playing Chiesa and stuff like that. I just don't understand how Chiesa became this guy. I hate when fans pick a guy from the bench. It's kind of like the American equivalent of the backup quarterback. I think is the most popular guy in the city. It's one of those, and I really, really hate when fans do this because it's see, like Wes, you just said it as well. Um, I don't. Fuck the fan base. I mean, honestly, if that's fan base's issue, I would say fuck the fan base. Then that's not a fan base. I don't understand how you can be a fan and kind of like go against the manager because when we don't know anything about the situation. So it's and before it even came out, because James Pierce had said, oh, it's not a fitness issue and stuff like that. I mean, okay, let's think about this, right? Let's make up a scenario where Slots hates Chiesa for some weird reason. Why would he make it that obvious and not take him with him? You could have taken him over there and to Istanbul and be like, yeah, but you're not playing and not playing. Why make it that obvious and be like, you're not even flying with us. You're staying over here. You're having fish and chips. We're gonna go over there and have kebabs or something. It just doesn't make any freaking sense to even think that. And for the fan base to kind of like, if the fan base is really split between Slots and Chiesa, the fan base can just go to hell is all I gotta say. Because I don't understand on why we kind of like this. The players who are there playing, winning, who just won a freaking title, who freaking lost a game. How freaking dare they lose a game? And suddenly everybody's like turning on him. And of course, you're gonna you go to the guy on the bench. You're like, oh, why is he? Could it be because Chiesa? I mean, you saw Chiesa in the League Cup game. I mean, you see how gassed he is. He really cannot freaking like gets a lot of minutes. I have no idea why the fitness is such a big issue with him. First of all, because I've been saying this, like if I was practicing with Liverpool for like over a year, I'd be in pretty decent shape, I would think. But what he does, what the fans like that he does, I think it's like nonstop energy and stuff like that when he comes in off the bench for the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever he plays. I think, fans love that, but fans don't understand that he can squeeze that into 10, 15 minutes, but cannot do it the entire 90 games. Like if I told you, hey, 10 minutes, man, just go full speed. Like, it happens like, if you're going to come out or something like that, you're going to come out in 5 minutes. So use everything you have in the tank right there, right then for those 5 minutes because you're coming out. That's a lot easier to do than trying to do that the entire time. And I think his main issue is more than fitness is basically being able to distribute that fitness to minutes because I think he's going 100 miles an hour, but you can't do that for like 90 minutes. Good chunk of them are just children mentally that hide behind the internet. That's probably true, Mateusz, but I don't know. Yeah, that's probably a big part of it. And I don't know, like, the internet is, I mean, we see in our social media comments and stuff like this, for every intelligence comment, there is probably 10, just like either meatheads comments from our fans, from rival fans, like, yeah, the ratio is pretty bad, pretty bad. Tony says cases like already get great off the bench, but not just for the full 90. Especially for now, I think. Definitely not. I guess the hope is, like he does get more, right? Like 20 to 30 minutes now instead. And I think he will, especially in this match traffic. And the manager has gone out of his way to compliment the guy, to praise him in the press conferences, 2 press conferences in a row. But people still to think that there's a freaking agenda is, what, that's on the freaking like fans and their stupidity. I just do not get I honestly thought last season, at the end of last season, I didn't think there was an agenda, but I figured he's not in the plans. Like we're not even trying to see if he's in the plans. Once the Tottenham game was over, the title was secured. We had these games, and he didn't get opportunities. Like nothing. Like we still saw Nunez and stuff. Either one, we already knew he's staying, so we didn't need to take a look. Or two, like I said, at the time I thought, yeah, he's not in the plans. He's probably going to be sold. But then the summer comes along and we had the opportunity to move him and we could have probably moved him, but maybe the value was not there. And it is still one of those deals. I think we were talking with Mateusz yesterday. It's kind of like an opportunity buy, where it is the value is still there. If Chiesa has a decent season this season, for example, next summer he's probably going for like 20, 30 and stuff now. So you have increased his value. But one reason or another, he's in the squad, and it's not like he's in the squad and like Slot is not. Yeah, he can stay there, I guess, but I'm not going to play him because you don't have as many options on top. I know he keeps saying that, like, oh, Frimpong can play right wing and Weirs can play on the left and stuff like that, but I don't think it is one of those deals over there. But I made a comment on this one, and Kazi and Mecca set me straight about that. I'm guessing fans can't be set straight though. What was the comment? What did you say now? What'd you say now, Ryan? And this is why. And honestly, like I can tell you guys from like personal experience, a club like Fenerbahce, who's unfortunately has been run by presidents. There's a new one who just got elected now because Turkish clubs work in a different way. That's who run the club based on what the fans want, and that's a recipe for disaster right there. There's a reason, because we put a lot more emotion into things as fans. Most of us, some of us more than others, but we put a lot of emotion into this, and you can't have a lot of emotion when you're ultimately running a business. In a sense, you have to make some, like, you got to be a bit more pragmatic and making those like decisions. Kenrick says, loving Chiesa, his attitude is great. Dude is fighting for, I can only respect it. But yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the thing. I think you can kind of say, he is doing everything he can, and the manager has seen it and mentioned it. So it's not like he kind of like, poo-pooed or not talk about, Chiesa's performances at all. So obviously Slot is seeing it, appreciating it, commenting on it. So he will get more minutes. I think it's going to be a different season than what we saw last season. I think maybe that's what everybody's fear is. People are like, oh, he's doing all this, he's only going to get 2 minutes again and stuff. I think it is going to be a little bit different this season. One, surely due to the number of people we have up top. And I think he is more the fifth option now because of different positions he can play. Tony says, don't bite the bait with these. He's trying to split us. I don't know, man. I just try to ignore it. But when the entire chat, like you could just see scroll, and some of them are the same people saying the same thing over and over again, just trolls. But there are like a lot of people who are like really, really thinking that, there's an agenda. Even as he's saying in the press conference, if they shut up, stop typing and listen, that, freaking that he is like, hurt. So he's back. I'm assuming, they didn't want to risk him here. Ekitike is back, so he will probably be in the squad, I would think, against Chelsea. In some ways, I wish he wouldn't go to the if he gets called up, which I would think he would, to the Italian camp. I hope he doesn't go to the international break, stays again, and builds some more. I say fitness, but it has to be something other than fitness, you would think, at this stage. This is not a guy. Maybe it's just a fitness in terms of like game minutes he has to build now, and that's what we're working on. Because we've talked about this before. Practicing is not the same as having like time on the pitch and like game time and actual game time. So the 2 goals Newcastle gave up for bad goaltending, I did not see them. Actually, I did not see the goals. I saw the conversation. I did see the conversation, but I, like I say, having not seen it at the time, I was like, I saw it afterwards. Now I've seen him. But yeah, there are some like ridiculous saves in there. Of course, Matush is the sensitive one when it comes to goalkeeping, because he's a goalkeeper. And I think that's why the goalkeeping position is kind of one of those deals where some of the saves that a goalie makes that, people would consider routine, we see when you don't have a good goalie are not so routine. It's all about, a lot of it is in placements. Like a goalies can make some of, you can say, anybody can look and say, oh, wow, what a save and stuff like that on some of them, right? But some of them looks like, like he's right there, is coming to him. Well, some of that is positioning. In terms of like where he's anticipation and stuff like that. So goalies never get the credits they deserve, I think. And you can kind of tell how important a goalie is. Just look at this weekend against Palace. If you almost got away with a draw out of that place, you can only thank Ali for it. And that's the thing of a goalie, though, right? Like they can keep you in games and stuff, but then they can have a great, 90 minutes and one below average or average minutes, and they get the entire blame and stuff. So no matter how much players are, we're still only have 11 on each side, and they're all human. Yeah, I think Kevin was mentioning it earlier that yeah, we need to make this embarrassing. Yes, and they do deserve to suffer. Like, politically, such a disgusting club, such a disgusting team, and you guys will see. Like, and that's, I think, the biggest weapon, honestly, Liverpool will have today is the fact that this is a group of players who are used to getting their way in the Turkish league. They get their calls regardless of what. And I'm talking about both attacking and defending. And when I say defending, they get away with murder. They will not get cards. Their players won't get cards in the Turkish league. They can do it for like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and they will not get a card. In Europe, things change. There's a reason why Galatasaray does great in Turkey, but does shit in Europe, because they get the calls in Turkey. It's all kind of like a little rigged in their behalf. So they don't get the early yellow card. They get the fouls when they attack and stuff. So there'll be a lot of like, that's something to be careful for in the box. This is a team who's used to just falling out of nowhere to get penalties and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I say, attacking wise, we can really put them under some pressure, get them some cards and stuff, because they think they can get away with it. And when you play like that week in and week out, it's hard to make that adjustment. We saw that against like Frankfurt, for example, like last week. It is hard to make that adjustment. And we're a kick-ass team. I mean, let's face it. I know like everybody's like really doom and gloom from the weekend and stuff, but we're a kick-ass team. So I think we can kind of really challenge them and have them get in early card trouble and stuff like that as well. And they do not, one, they don't have the depth, and two, I think what makes them pretty solid, at least defensively, is like Sanchez and Bardakçı are there. If you get him in trouble and if you kind of like let him back off a little bit from like off of Ekitike and stuff, I think we can have an easier time in this game. That's probably like one of our bigger advantages, I think, is going to be, hopefully I'm not jinxing it, but like refereeing over there. So that is except for Ali, who can score a winning goal. Yes, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with goalies, right? And it is so freaking hard to replace him. I mean, it is so hard. I think that's why, like, what City did is extremely smart with getting Donnarumma in there, because you see like what Chelsea goes through, you see what United goes through, even Spurs to a certain extent. I'm not sure if I'm sold on that dude as well, but like it's very difficult to have a goalie that you can almost like guarantee some level of consistency. I mean, Ali has had some howlers too, but every goalie is going to, because they are human at the end of the day. But in terms of someone you can rely on week in and week out. Yes. I mean, see, I don't know if, I mean, you guys can tell me. I don't think it was more when it was Manchester United's. It was more about, like Manchester area refs and within like PGMOL. I think they were called something different at the time. More about that. The Galatasaray thing is a lot more, unfortunately, political powers that be is what kind of like pushes it. They're the ones who put pressure on the Turkish version of PGMOL and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of trickles down from a bit more higher up and forces outside for Galatasaray. I don't think Manchester United was more, I would think, I assume, because I don't see why it would be like from the top down in that scenario. But I think that was more like the politics within the PGMOL as opposed to Howard Webb and all those guys. Whereas Galatasaray is like a bit bigger scale than that. That imposes itself on the PGMOL of Turkey and stuff. Where do I rate the Turkish league? I would put the Turkish league, in terms of, if you look at squads, I mean throughout the league, but definitely like when you look at the big boys, the big three. I know you like numbers, Dara. But no, like Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, even Beşiktaş and stuff. I mean, you're gonna see today, for example, when Galatasaray come out there on Thursday, when Fenerbahce goes out there, when they put that starting 11 like before the game and they line up, it is like, oh wow, this is like actually a pretty good squad. I mean, it's kind of like a who's who of maybe people who play in the Premier League, Bundesliga, and stuff like that. So they have good squads normally, but the one thing that really destroys the league is the whole Galatasaray thing. But more importantly, I think like the fans and how the clubs are run and stuff like that. It's a lot of good players, but not a lot of great teams, if that makes sense, because it's like a lot of unnecessary turnover. It's like a league of Chelsea's, if you will, in that sense, where there's so much turnover going on. I think that's why they never have like great teams to challenge in Europe anymore. I mean, Fenerbahce made it to semifinals, I think, last, right? They lost to Olympiacos. Oh no, the quarterfinals, and they lost to Olympiacos, and everybody was like, "What the hell?" And then Olympiacos went and won the whole thing. I would put him. I mean, you got to get the bigger guys out of the way, right? The Premier League, Spain, Italy, France out of the way. I think quality wise, team wise, they're probably even with like Portugal and Netherlands and stuff. But I think those leagues have better teams, not squads, but better teams who do better. And they are run better, so they do better in Europe. So you hear about a Benfica and Porto and stuff like that a lot more compared to, like Turkish teams. I think that's like the biggest difference. But I would put them probably right after that anyway. Even if you put like the Portuguese and Dutch league above that, I would probably put the Turkish league right after that in terms of like quality. Doesn't always translate to teams and how they play, and I think that's because of the ridiculous turnover. I mean, we seeing right here. I would, for example, put him. I mean, like it's difficult to compare, right? I mean, I would say if you did something where you took their standings right now in Belgium, for example, right, and took the Turkish league, and if everybody played each other, I think the Turkish teams would win, because I think as you trickle down, there's more quality in the lower like teams as well, like the 8th and the 9th and stuff. The 8th guy in the Turkish league will be better than the 8th guy in Belgium, I would guess. The only issue, like I say, becomes it's very, because there's like the Turkish system is different. It's not club owners and stuff like that. It's more all these clubs have like elections and it's like their boards and stuff like that. So there's a lot of running. We were talking about it earlier with the perspective of a fan, and that's what the problem is. So when two bad results, they're like, free Chiesa and get this guy, and why doesn't he play and stuff? And then like they change a lot of things. And we talk about this when the rival bros with my brother all the time. It's kind of like the curse of the system, because if you're elected blah blah blah, you kind of have to listen to the outside voices a lot more, whereas if you own the club, I think that's like kind of the good thing. Should talk to Edip about this actually tomorrow too. I think that's one of the biggest reasons right there. I'm not as sure about the Spanish model, to be honest with you, Jimbo. So I'm not sure if they're the same. Basically, there's a board, there's regular members. I mean, because of my grandfather, like our family is actually has like rights to vote for the president, because obviously we're like club members thanks to him. So they vote the president, and then he picks his board of directors and stuff like that. But then like they have I think it's 4 years or 3 years or something like that. And if things are not going well, they can. I mean, the guy who got elected, for example, just now, basically said, if we don't win the title this year or next year, then I'll hold an early election anyway, kind of thing. I'll take it as I didn't get the job done and stuff. Of course, he could be saying that will come the next year, and he'll be like, I don't never said that. So United fans or Crystal Palace fans say Liverpool are crap. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. If you're a United fan right now, you just got to do what Edip does and kind of lay low and have some false hope here and there, but you just got to lay low and understand where you're at. I just don't, the problem is that history is becoming, I mean, look, let's face it, we went through this, right? And we won occasional like big trophies along the way, like Champions League and stuff. But like the history thing, after a while, when as the distance between you and that history of like, winning things gets bigger, it's kind of like loses its, you can't use it anymore. So you should just lay low for the most parts. And I think that's where United fans should be. There's so much freaking, it's such a big mess, and it's great to see. But I mean, we face him right after the international break, right? So we go to Chelsea, and then there's the international break, and then Anfield against United over there. So that should be interesting. Sign United to the Turkish league. They might finish in the top 10. Yes, they might actually. Yes. I'll be honest. I don't know if United will win the Turkish league. We did a live watch along because we did a podcast with my brother. We did a live watch along for the Europa final, United's and Tottenham. And we were talking about it, and we literally could not find. I think we like forced one at the end. We were like, "Hey, how many of these guys would you take to Fenerbahce?" Was a conversation, and we could not find. We might have found one at the end. I can't remember a player that we would be okay with taking from United. And that says a freaking lot about United. Maybe this year we go get like Cunha and Mbuemo and stuff like that. But this was last season, and we literally could not find somebody who we thought, hey, we can bring him into Fenerbahce and they will be successful. Like, what was the kid's name? The Holland from Timu, Sergi calls him Hoyland, who went to Italy and stuff like him. Like we were like, oh, nope, the fans would eat him alive, for example, if he had 2 games like how he has at United and stuff. I mean, their back line and stuff, we literally couldn't find anybody that we would take to Fenerbahce and feel like he'll do well. I mean, there's a guy like Fernandez that we basically say we would not want a personality like that in the club kind of thing. Maybe qualities there as a player, but personality. But the rest of the team, I think it was mostly quality than personality. And that says a lot because on any regular Premier League team, really, like you can go to probably we can go watch a Brighton game, we can watch a Spurs game, and we would probably say, I'll take him, and there would be like, like 5-6 guys from each team that you would want to take over and bring over from the Premier League. So that tells you the state that United is in right now, to be honest with you. So Spanish also vote the president. Yeah, I think they just have directors. Like the president basically makes his own board of directors, if you will. But I think there's a thing where, like, if you have enough representatives, I mean, they held a meeting last year, I think it was last year or the year before, like in a stadium basically, where people voted on certain things and stuff like that. But this election is people go in and throw their vote, and it's almost like a regular old school election right there. So it sounds like very similar though, Jimbo, in terms of how they are run. And I think when you do that, when there's more of that election and promises and what you deliver, blah blah blah, things like that going, shit goes downhill. I think because things take time and fans don't like waiting, right? We're not patient enough, and that's why we shouldn't make these decisions, because we would not kind of stay the course. I think somebody was saying like, trust in the slot, trust the process and stuff. We would not as a fan, because we would want like faster turnaround and stuff. But things take time. If you do not have to vote, worry about being voted off the island, or like something like that, where like the power is going to be taken from you, you tend to think a lot more short term. I mean, we see this in politics, right? That's why the world has gone to shit, because people are more worried about short time as opposed to long term gain. I think if you own the club, like if she can make a decision that might not look good right now, but they won't care because they know in 2 years it's going to pay off, that's when you make better decisions, as opposed to making like, what are we going to do? Yeah, I know it's going to bite us in the ass, but September is big, election time and stuff like that. And you make certain decisions that's, like short-term decisions, by definition, they're shit long-term. And if you're running the club, you're trying to run the club long-term. So it kind of like backfires. I think that's one of the biggest differences, actually. Spain has so much money to throw around, apparently, like, like the big boys, that's it doesn't hurt them as much. But even there, you kind of see like we're gonna bring this manager in, we're gonna do this, we're gonna bring this guy and stuff like that. So has even, honestly, I don't follow Syria as well, even though like when I watch highlights, like I'll see, like I'll look at Juventus, Cananiel displays there and stuff like that. I don't watch it as much, so I don't know how he's doing. I did watch highlight from Napoli just yesterday, and I thought they lost, but I can't remember who it was. Dara says agreed about the patience. Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely, and that's sometimes more about, I don't know, like what you guys think about that. I think that's sometimes a bit more about not admitting you're wrong, whether it's the director of football, whether it's the manager. That's more like, no, this is gonna work, more than anything else. So there are certain players that will, you know, gets more chances that maybe we feel as fans sometimes because the manager brought him in and maybe, spend money on him, or maybe, overrode another guy who's potentially doing well in another team there. It's their guy. So, no, this is going to work and stuff. And it's more about, I think, not admitting you're wrong more than anything else. And I think sometimes we only look at performance, whereas I think a team might look at value a bit more than, you and I would, right? Like, okay, for example, my favorite Costas, right? I think there's a certain value to that in terms of, over the last 2, 3 years, having a very affordable and serviceable backup left back, right? We might say, man, he's not good enough. There should be a better, more reliable player and stuff like that. But that we're only thinking about playing levels, and we're looking at it just as a player, whereas they're looking more at it as one, financially, is it going to make sense? This does make sense. And I think they also look at like the squads and how the squad fits and stuff like that. A guy happy about being a backup and getting a certain way. So there's like, they put in an extra like 10 factors into decision making. I think we only have one, maybe two, and that's about it. And I think that's why we sometimes like clash over there. So but yeah, I mean, that's what, like, Galatasaray has been the same way. They sign names, fans want names, so sometimes to sign those names, they've done some, I mean, hopefully it'll eventually come out and it's going to bite them in the ass. But this whole Osman thing was shady as hell. They got caught literally black marketing their own tickets to fans. And oh, don't get me started, Dara, because if you just, we'll ask John tomorrow and he'll tell us how many trophies he's won us. But no, I give him all like probably extra shit than he deserves. But I mean, it was a good example in terms of somebody I would say, for example, we should do better at. But the powers that be are like, no, this is pretty good actually. So yeah, I mean, they got caught doing that. So they got Osimhen, they got Sane. They have a lot of like good players on that team. So it's not going to be an easy game by any means. That's the only thing that scares me, is everybody's overconfidence. Because let's face it, anytime we go into a game overconfident, it kind of like comes to like bite us in the ass afterwards. So everybody's a little bit too confident with that. They're a good team and they can really hurt you on the counter. They have some speed up top. They have people who can finish. So it's a team that we got to be really careful defending. Having said that, I don't think they can keep up with us if we play our game and like set pieces and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm optimistic, but not as like people, when people start counting goals, like it'll be 4 or 5 and stuff like that, I know we're in deep shits. And I hear a little bit of that. I think we're kind of like not understanding like the quality they really have in the squad. And what happens with Turkish teams are, especially like these guys that are there who were once in better leagues, like a Sane, like an Osimhen, and all these guys. Which Osimhen, I don't know if he's starting because he just came back from an injury. He only played like 50 minutes or something like that the weekend. But like Icardi and all these guys, right? They come to Turkey mainly because they want the wages that maybe like somebody in the Premier League, blah, 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 and that maybe they're not good enough to start over there anymore, and they want to be able to play the week in and week out. I think you have options in terms of when you're that kind of a player in the Premier League and you're at that level, and your level has kind of dropped a little bit where you're not a starter anymore. You basically ultimately have three choices. It feels like you can take the money, take a lot of money, and go to Saudi Arabia and basically just disappear, right? You can take maybe a little bit less money, but come to a Turkish league, a Greek league, and actually play in Europe still, and be a bit smart and play in full stadiums and stuff like that. So actually still be a player. Or you can come to the US where maybe, I mean, more than likely your living conditions, like the environment for your family and all that kind of stuff is probably better, but you're not in Europe anymore, and you're kind of like, gone into oblivion. So you're just like cashing in, but it's like especially if you're going to LA or something like that. You're basically going to a different lifestyle, still kind of playing a little bit too, kind of a deal. So a lot of these guys, if you selected the Turkish Greek option and want to still stay in the like Europe, these competitions mean the world to them. I can guarantee you they circle these dates on the calendar because these competitions mean a lot more to them. Fenerbahce is going to take the pitch on Thursday. I can guarantee you players like Asensio and like Duran and stuff like that, they circle that date because that's a lot more important to them, because doing well over there gets your name again in Europe and stuff like that. Over the weekend, you can play a great game against Gaziantepspor in Turkey. Nobody's going to care, but these are kind of like the moments for these guys. They pick probably Galatasaray because they're in the Champions League already and stuff. So they will go above and beyond in their performances, and that's why we got to be careful. This is just another Champions League game for us out of like one of the 8, and we won the first one, but as for them, they lost the first one. And Champions League is kind of like everything, and it's not like the old days where you get eliminated from the Champions League, you're like, it is what it is, we'll just go to Europa. That's not there anymore. So these guys don't want their European season to be over and just get stuck with the Turkish league afterwards. So they will go above and beyond. I think that's something to be careful for. Lineup. Let's talk lineup over here real quick on the way out. What you guys expect to see. We talked a lot about it last night as well. I don't know if it'll be Ali or Mamardashvili in goal. Who played against Atletico? Why am I having a brain fart over here? Doesn't he remember who played against? Did Mamardashvili get that or no, right? Mamardashvili got the League Cup game. Now I'm going to have to look this up because I really can't remember who started against Atletico, because whoever did that will be, again, I think it was Ali at the end of the day. Lineup. Yep, Ali it was. So it'll be Ali in goal then. No Mamardashvili. I think something was asking about it in the chat yesterday. Thinking Robertson, Van Dijk, Gomez. I still think it'll be Frimpong. He did start against Atletico as well. And then I'm hoping it's Gravenberg and Szoboszlai with Wirtz. I'm actually looking at this squad that went up against Atletico Madrid. And I think it would be the same thing. Instead of Isak, you're going to see Ekitike up top. Because it looks like Szoboszlai, Gravenberg, Wirtz in front of them, Gakpo on the left, Mo on the right, and then it was Isak up top. So I do think we will see Ekitike up top for sure. He did not play. I'm taking a lot from arguably our best performance. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like this squad. I don't know if you get Konate some rest, or I don't know if you want to like build this confidence with a decent game or a good game. I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit torn on that. I don't know if you put Gomez out there or keep Gomez for insurance. And if things go well, you put Gomez in at right back or like right center back and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know if this, you could see the starting 11, Ekitike instead of Isak going out there, and I'd be totally fine with that. Because I agree, that was one of our, especially the first half, was one of our better performances. Yeah, I think Ekitike, having not played the weekend at all, and I think we probably got more minutes than Isak had this weekend. So I don't think he starts. I think he still comes for like 20 minutes or something like that at the end, but I think we ride Ekitike. And I don't know if you guys saw the press conference yesterday, but it's, you know, we said it was very uncharacteristic of him to do that. And yeah, he's a little young kid that, you know, knows who made a mistake, knows it was stupid. And he does seem like very grounded. I really like that about him. When he talks, like he's very grounded, but you can tell he's very driven as well. Like, you know, like the way he says certain things, you can kind of tell it's not just talk. Like he's actually, you know, in terms of like what he sees. They asked him about like, you know, Isak coming over and, you know, like obviously the red card and stuff like that. I really liked his answers and how he kind of like he carries himself. He's like one of my favorites, and he's probably, is he our best transfer so far? Easily, right? I mean, at least in terms of performances and productivity, I would think he's our best signing so far. Frimpong has been, Turkes has actually done a lot better. I know we put the weekend goal a little bit on him, but I think during the game, compared to the first 2-3 games, he's been a lot better since the Arsenal game, I think. And then Isak obviously is new. Wirtz, maybe because the expectations are so high that we have not seen much of it yet. So I'm probably thinking Ekitike is probably our best summer signing so far. So yeah, I'm hoping he's fired up as well, and he's out there to prove a point. And that's one of the things going for me over there. But score predictions, what are we going with? I'm still sticking with the 3-1, and that's a comfortable 3-1, hopefully, and get the win and get another 3 points. I honestly think if you guys look at our Champions League schedule, it does get a bit easier and lighter as we go. So one of those in terms of get some early points. So when the schedule is really tight, we can really rotate for Europe, not care about the result. I know there's the Real game in there, but after Real Madrid, like I think you can kind of like take some chances and risks. You can start Chiesa somewhere and stuff like that and make everybody happy. Like you play like Karabakh at home, you play PSV and stuff like that. So you just do have some games over there that you can kind of like rotate a bit more. I think Atletico Madrid win was big, mainly because of that. Dara's going to 1-0. Man, that sounds painful. I hope not. 3-1. That sounds about right, Tony. I'm all for the 3-1, a bit more comfortable version. And I think it is a comfortable 3-1, like 3-0. We kind of like put it to sleep, and then they get one, and then we're like, oh, what the hell is going on? And we play a little bit and stuff like that is what I'm hoping. But that's wishful thinking. Yeah, it's nervy. What do we have? 4 hours away over here. And yeah, I'm already getting, it is little like a derby. It feels like, good old fashioned Fenerbahce Galatasaray game kind of a feel to it. But I'll be back tomorrow morning. We'll talk a lot about that. And like I say, right after the morning show ends, we'll be live with Edip doing the Rival Bros. I'm sure we'll talk about this. Obviously, we'll talk a lot about the Premier League as well. I mean, Edip is a huge Liverpool fan today. So there's that. So we're finally rooting for the same team today with Edip, and we'll see it that way. But have a great day, everybody. Up the Reds. Let's get this win. Let's smash freaking Galatasaray for God's sake, so I can have a great week rest of the way. But you guys have a great week. See you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.